Evet, kıymetli katılımcılar, değerli dostlar. Yabancı konuklarımız da var açılış panelimizde. O nedenle oturumda simultane tercüme olacağını tekrar hatırlatmak istiyorum kendilerine müsaadenizle. Dr. Han, we do have simultaneous translation, so there is an interpreter translating from Turkish to English, so you can select the option from the interpretation section anytime. It is also the same for you, Alexander. Thank you. We're just waiting for Professor Lee to join from MPI. He's been having, I think, a little bit of challenges of connecting. So I'm just giving him another 30 seconds, then we can start the opening panel. Profesör Lee'nin Çin'den katılacak olan MPI Başkanı Profesör Lee'nin katılımını bekliyorum. Kendisinin son testleri yapılıyor sanırım. Bir aksilik olmazsa kendisini de alacağız şimdi. Talebi üzerine önce kendisini almamızı istemişti zaman farkı nedeniyle. Biz de o önceliği kendisine vermeyi düşündük. 30 saniye bekleyelim müsaade ederseniz lütfen. Bu arada Uğur Bey hoş geldiniz panele. Çok teşekkür ediyoruz katılımınız için. Hoş bulduk efendim. Dear Alexander, welcome to the opening panel. It's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Han, it's excellent you made it. So thank you so much for your joining today for the opening panel. And evet, dediğim gibi Profesör Lee'yi bekliyoruz. Birazcık daha, birkaç saniye daha süre verelim. Adnan Bey ile ilgili de bir bilgi aldım. Kendisi sanırım bir sebep ötürü hastanede ama bilgiyi daha düzenli almaya çalışıyorum. Size açılış paneli süresince ayrıntılı olarak bilgilendireceğim süreçle alakalı. Başlayalım. Yes, I think we can start now. So if we have Professor Lee managing his connection issues, so I'm sure you will be able to see him right now with us. So evet, kıymetli misafirlerimiz, değerli meslektaşlarım, açılış panelimize hoş geldiniz. Sizlere kısaca bugünkü panelistlerimi tanıtmak istiyorum müsaade ederseniz. Evet, ev sahibi olarak tabii ki Türkiye'den önce Uğur Bey ile başlayalım. Siz de uygun görürseniz. Uğur Bey 1964 yılında İstanbul'da doğdu. Yüksek öğrenimini ODTÜ Meteoroloji Mühendisliği bölümünde tamamladı. 1986 yılında ÇOLAKOİLU grubuna katılan Sayın DALBELER, sırasıyla satış müdürlüğü, ticaret ve finans koordinatörlüğü ve son olarak da 2005 yılından itibaren kurumda CEO olarak görevine devam etmekte. Sayın DALBELER, Türkiye Çelik Üreticileri Derneği ve Çelik İhracatçıları Derneği Yönetim Kurulu üyesidir. Ayrıca 2004-2014 yılları arasında da Uluslararası İnşaat Demiri İhracatçıları ve Üreticileri Birliği olan İRAPAS'ında başkanlık görevini yürütmüştür. Atladığım bir şey oldu mu Uğur Bey?
Estağfurullah.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Sağ olun. İkinci konuşmacımız hanımefendi Doktor Han'a ben onu size kısaca tanıtmak istiyorum. Müsaadenizle kendisinin tanıtım biyografisini İngilizce okumak istiyorum hızlıca. Dr. Han, welcome. She's the Director, Economic Studies of the World Steel Association. She joined World Steel in January 2006 and opened its Beijing office in the same year, where she served as a chief representative till October 2014. Before joining AASI, well, I think it's now World Steel, we had better to call it like that. She worked for POSCO Research Institute for 15 years, where her last position was Director of China Study Center. During her years at POSCO Research Institute, she assumed diverse responsibilities in the areas of economic forecasting, international trade affairs, marketing, and China studies. She received a Bachelor of Arts degree in English from Hankook University of Foreign Studies in Seoul and a PhD degree in economics from Penn State University. She also got a master's degree in BA at Aja University in Seoul. So she's a citizen of Republic of Korea and currently lives in Brussels. I'd like to say 안녕하세요, Dr. Han. Thank you for joining. And we have Alexander, if I can introduce you, Alexander, for the opening panel, if you allow me to do so. Alexander STRAMROOD, he's the HSSC manager in Qatar still. He's joining us today from Qatar. He's 35 years plus occupational safety, security, health and safety, environment management experience in construction industries, mining, electrical, utility, and steel manufacturing as well. 9 years senior executive management experience with a hands-on approach, skilled in development, implementation, maintenance of safety and health and environment management programs. And strong management skills and MBA with ability to influence people from the EXCO and board members. Passionate about making a difference, ensuring a safe, healthy, and environment-friendly workplace for all. He has been a speaker at international and national safety, health, and environment conferences on various topics. And he was the past president of the Institute of Safety Management in South Africa. And also, he served at various advisory councils currently. And obviously, he is right now World Steel Safety Health Committee, SteerCo member right now as well. Alexander, did I forget anything? Hopefully, everything is there. Excellent, thank you. Thank you for having with us today. Evet, 2 ayrı daha konuğumuz var demiştim sizlere. Ancak Sayın Adnan Bey katılamayacak diye düşünüyorum ama kısaca kendisini de sizlere tanıtayım. Eğer son dakika bir düzeltme olursa katılabilir belki. Adnan Aslan Bey 1964'te İstanbul'da doğdu. Yüksek öğrenimini İsviçre Institut Montreux'da tamamladı. 85 yılından bu yana demir çelik, enerji, tersane, lojistik, liman ve gemi işletmeciliği, inşaat, sigorta, madencilik, tarım, hayvancılık alanlarında faaliyette bulunan ulusal ve uluslararası standartlara sahip, teknolojiye, çevreye, insana verdiği önemli, hızlı büyümesini gelecekte de devam ettirme prensibini benimseyen İÇDAŞ Şirketler Topluluğu'nun yönetim kurulu üyesidir diyorum ve hızlıca Profesör Lee ile ilgili de bilgi verip sonra oturumumuza geçelim. Profesör Lee, kendisi Registered Consulting Engineer diye geçiyor. Devlet kademesinde, State Council'da görevli. Aynı zamanda kendisi MPI diye de bilinen Çin Metalurji Endüstrisi Planlama ve Araştırma Dairesi'nin başkanlığını yapıyor. Aynı zamanda da Çin Demir Çelik Üreticileri Birliği'nin de başkan yardımcısı. Diğer bir sürü daha görevleri var. Kendisinin özgeçmişi epeyce yoğun. Ben size kısaltarak aktarmaya çalışıyorum. Kendisi önemli bullet pointler olarak, aşamalar olarak şöyle söyleyebilirim. 8. Endüstri 5 yıllık kalkınma planı artı 8.den 14.ye kadar olan Çin 5 yıllık kalkınma planlarının demir çelik ayaklarına destek verdi. Onu biliyoruz. Artı Çin-Amerika Ticaret Komisyonu'nun ticari görüşmelerinde demir çelik endüstrisini temsilen yer aldı. G20'de Çelik Forumu'nda yer aldı. Kendisinin demir çelik endüstrisinin yerelleşmesi ve pazar dinamiklerinin doğru yönetilmesi adına Çin Federal Devleti'ne, ulusal devletine de düzenli katkı sağladığını biliyoruz. Evet, ben arkadaşlara son bir kez teyit için tekrar sorayım. Profesör Lee'nin aramızda olma ihtimali var mı acaba? Ben hemen bakıyorum, müsaade ederseniz. Evet, sanırım bir güvenlik bariyeri sıkıntısı yaşıyor aslında. Bunun için gerekli önlemlerimizi almıştık ama olamıyor galiba. O zaman ben hemen ilk anketimizi rica edebilir miyim arkadaşlar? Oturuma başlamadan önce kısa bir anketimiz var. Kıymetli katılımcıların görüşlerini panele yol vermesi, yön göstermesi adına almak istiyoruz. Eğer rejideki arkadaşlarım sizlerle paylaştığım ilk oturum anketini paylaşırlarsa süreci yönetmeye başlayalım müsaade ederseniz. Anket sorumuz, işletmelerimiz COVID-19 sürecini nasıl yönetiyor? Kötü, orta, başarılı, çok başarılı, fikrim yok şeklinde bir anket hazırladık. Sonuçlarını sizlere ekrana getirerek paylaşacağım. Tüm katılımcı arkadaşların ekranda görünen anketi cevaplamalarını ben rica ediyorum. Sanırım bakıyorum. Paylaşıldığını düşünüyorum. Rejideki arkadaşlar bana teyit ederlerse ilk anketin paylaşıldığı bilgisini. Yaklaşık 1 dakikaya yakın bir zaman verelim.
Paylaşıldı efendim.
Teşekkür ediyorum. O zaman süresi içerisinde arkadaşlar, katılımcı dostlar lütfen anketi yönlendirelim ve bitirelim. 1 dakika içerisinde sonuçlarını yansıtacağım sizlere. In the meantime, I just put a poll regarding just to understand what our audience are thinking. I just asked them to comment on the performance of our stillness regarding managing COVID-19. So I think I would be able to get the result within the next 20-30 seconds. So if you allow me 20-30 seconds, we will have the comments and obviously the opinions from the audience, and then we can start the opening session. Henüz daha katılım sayımız çok yüksek değil anladığım kadarıyla. Ancak görebildiğim kadarıyla kötü ve orta çok yok. Genellikle başarılı ve çok başarılı bulunuyor. Bu bizim için bence iyi bir başlangıç. Özellikle panelimizin ana konusu, ana teması olan COVID-19 sürecini nasıl yönettiğimiz sorusuna arkadaşlarımızın tepkisini almış olduk. Evet, panelimize geri dönelim lütfen. Eğer misafirlerimizi ekrana alabilirsek. Çok teşekkürler. Evet, Uğur Bey sizden başlayabilir miyim? Siz bize kısaca bahseder misiniz eğer mümkünse? İşletmelerimizde COVID-19 pandemisiyle nasıl mücadele ettik? Etmeye de devam ediyoruz. Biliyorum, haberleri çok yakından takip ediyorum. Pek iç açıcı maalesef geri bildirim alamıyorum ülkemizden. Sizce bu aşamada kıymetli görüşlerinizi paylaşırsanız bir de ilk hangi tedbiri almayı planladığınız bilgisini de alabilirsem çok sevinirim.
Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Çelik Dünyası'nın çok değerli üyeleri, hanımefendiler, beyefendiler. Öncelikle inananlara hayırlı Ramazanlar dilerim. Çolakoğlu Meteoroloji adına da herkese sevgi ve saygılarımı sunuyorum. Bu imkanı verdiği için de hem bu güzel organizasyonu yapanlara hem de bu organizasyonlara sponsor olanlara da teşekkür ederim. Malumunuz 2020 aslında bizler için hep anılarımızda felaketler yılı olarak kalacak. Çünkü öyle bir başladık ki önce depremler, arkasından yangınlar, hiç görmediğimiz ülkemizde bile kum fırtınaları yaşadık. Akabinde de pandemiyle tanıştık. Tabii biz en başında aslında bunun Çin'le sınırlı olduğunu düşünürken aslında 4-5 ay içerisinde evrildiği nokta bambaşka bir yerdi. Onlar 4-5 ay içerisinde bu işi çözdüler. Ama biz hala uğraşıyoruz bu tarafta. Şimdi hala devam etmekte olan bir süreçten bahsediyoruz. Ve aradan neredeyse 1,5 yıl geçmesine rağmen, yani evet yeni bir yaşam formu oluştu. Kimimiz buna alıştı ama halen kimimiz de inatla kale almamayı sürdürüyor. O yüzden tekrar bu konunun önemine dikkat çekmek istiyorum. Zira malumunuz henüz uzaktan erişimle çelik üretimini keşfedemedik. O yüzden en azından çalışanlarımızla birlikte olduğumuzda bunun ne kadar önemli, ne kadar sıkıntılı olduğunu her gün hissediyoruz çelik üreticileri olarak. Şu anda 3. dalgayı yaşıyoruz ve maalesef ülkemizde katlanarak büyüyen bir süreç. Bir takım önlemler alındı, alınamadı ama bugün dünyada ilk 3 arasındayız vaka sayısı olarak. Bu da tabii çok çok üzücü. Bir şey gördüm geçenlerde. 1 sene önce bir grafik, aslında biraz da esprili. Enfekte olmaktan korkanların sayısı enfekte olanların neredeyse 10 misli. Ama bugün aradan 1 yıl geçmesine rağmen herhalde korku azalmış olmalı ki enfekte olanlar maalesef korkanların 10 misli gibi bir şeye geldi. Maalesef bu çok acı. Biz Çolakoğlu metalürji olarak aslında Avrupa'ya ilk geldiği an önlemleri almaya başladık. Daha henüz Türkiye'de bir vaka görülmemişti. İlk yapmış olduğumuz şey, bunun tabii ki Türkiye'nin Avrupa ile bu kadar içli dışlı olmasının sonucunda Türkiye'ye de uğrayacağıydı. O anlamda işçileri nasıl acaba bir taraftan güvenli bir şekilde fabrika ortamında çalışmalarını sağlarken diğer taraftan da tabii çalışmanın sürdürülebilirliğini nasıl sağlayabiliriz diye düşündük. Birçok önlem alındı. Aslında buna benzer hemen hemen herkes benzer önlemleri aldı. Sonuçta aklın yolu bir. Ne yaptık mesela? İşçilerimizi taşıdığımız servislerin sayılarını 2 katına, 3 katına çıkarttık. Oradaki mevcudu yarıdan daha fazla indirdik. Her sabah her işçinin o servise binmeden önce ateşini ölçerek maskeyle o servise binmesini sağladık. İçeride yemekhane olsun, soyunup giyindikleri yerler, duş aldıkları yerler, bunların sayısı hemen arttırıldı. Ama tabii asıl biz kendi kontrol alanımızdaki bölgeyi kontrol etmeye ne kadar sahip olsak da işçi 8 saatin sonunda bizim kontrol alanımızın dışına çıktığından dolayı orada tabii insanları bilinçlendirmeye çalıştık. Ama her şeyin öncesinde ilk yapmış olduğumuz şey bununla ilgili bir sorumlu grup kurduk. Doktorumuzla, iş sağlığı ve güvenliğinden sorumlu arkadaşlarımızla, yani bütün İK'mızla süreci yönetmeleri için bütün senaryolar çıkarıldı. Bütün önlemler, olası önlemler, bütün sonuçlara ilişkin varsayımlar hepsi bir kere kağıda döküldü ki bir durumla karşılaştığımızda onunla ilgili neler yapılacağı net olsun diye. Hatta şuna kadar vardık, B planları gittik, farklı yerlerde ofisler kiraladık. Eğer herhangi bir enfeksiyon durumunda ofisleri kapatmak zorunda olacak olursak başka yerlere taşınıp oradan en azından devam etmek. Yani söylemeye çalıştığım şey, alınabilecek aslında tüm önlemleri aldık. Engelleyebildik mi? Hayır, engelleyemedik. Ama şunu rahatlıkla ve gururla söyleyebilirim. Ortalamanın çok çok çok altında bir sayıyla sınırlı tutabildik. Vakalarımız sınırlı sayıda olmakla birlikte işte Mayıs'ta, Nisan'da görüldü. Haziran'dan Eylül'e kadar biz sıfırlayabilmiştik. Arkasından ikinci dalganın gelmesiyle gene kontrollü olarak az sayıda vakayla Mart ayına kadar geldik. Gene sıfırladık. Şimdi üçüncü dalgada onu da yani gururla söyleyebilirim. Çünkü görüyoruz artık istatistikler her yerde yayınlanıyor. Bizim bulunduğumuz bölgede oranların çok çok yüksek olmasına rağmen biz çok aşağıda sayılarla bu işi kontrol edebiliyoruz. Çünkü insanlar artık bilinçlendi. Sadece kendimizi değil, aslında düşünmemiz gereken işte ailelerimizi, arkadaşlarımızı onlara hatırlattığımız zaman artık o disiplin çalışma ortamına yerleşti diyebiliriz. Ben isterseniz bu sorunun cevabını böyle bırakayım. Sonrasında eğer devam etmemi istiyorsanız biraz da sektöre ilişkin bir şeyler söyleyebilirim. Ya da paneli nasıl yönetmek istediğinizi bilmediğim için sizden bir şey bekliyorum.
Tabii, estağfurullah Uğur Bey. Çok teşekkürler. Sonuç itibariyle işletmelerimizi temsil eden iki konuğumsunuz. Bir tanesi elbette konuklarımdan birisi sizsiniz. Sizin çok kıymetli geri bildiriminizi almak çok önemliydi. Tüm arkadaşların özellikle işletmelerimizde ne tür önlemlerle nasıl bu süreci etkin yönetmeye çalıştıkları bilgisi bizim için son derece önemli. O nedenle çok teşekkür ediyorum. Elbette başka sorularımız olacak. Özellikle paydaşlar ve müşterilerle olan bu koordinasyon, iletişimi yönetmek de herhalde böyle bir kriz ortamında.
Burada en kritik hususlardan biri doğru fiilasyonu yapabilmekti. Evet. Öncelikle o noktada doğru tespit yapıldığında zaten siz onu belli bir yere hapsedebiliyorsunuz. Yayılmasını önleyebiliyorsunuz ki bizim bugünkü başarımızın arkasında aslında temel şey budur. Konu budur. Biz bir şeyi tespit ettiğimiz anda çevresini hemen boşalttık.
Evet.
Çalışma düzenini tekrar ona göre düzenledik. Ve bir kısım işçimizi de zaten hiç şeyleri olmamalı, sağlıklı olmalarına rağmen evlerine gönderdik ve onları belli sürelerde evlerinde izole ettik ki bu da bizim çalışma sürdürülebilirliğimizi sağladı.
Evet, kesinlikle sizlere katılmamak mümkün değil. Çok teşekkür ediyorum. Çok kıymetli görüşlerinizi paylaştığınız için. Şimdi eğer müsaade ederseniz Profesör Lee'ye hoş geldiniz demek istiyorum. Welcome, Professor Lee. Thank you so much for joining with us today. And I know that you have got some limited time. And if I may, ask you to join first. And if you could kindly say, because I have already introduced yourself and I have spoken on your behalf, and so I would be very pleased if you can kindly just share your thoughts about especially the China steel industry, how they have managed, especially these difficult times in COVID-19. And obviously it is still going on. It's not over yet. We believe that, but we've been very carefully following all nations, how they are actually fighting against this massive pandemic. And then we just want to understand your very valuable thoughts and comments. The stage is yours, please. I think we need to unmute you. Yeah, if I ask from the regie. Yes, we are hearing you now.
Okay, first, I'm very sorry, and there are some trouble with the connect with the conference, so very sorry. But at the same time, I'm very happy to meet all of friends on the line, and I'm, currently everything is recovering. So China economy is very dynamic. I have a very short presentation, PPT. So of course, I will control my time. What time limit for me? Because some waste of time because of the
yes.
How long for my time?
Yeah, Mr. Lee, we are thinking of giving about 20 minutes roughly for each speaker. So if you can Yeah, focus on 20 minutes and inform us, enlighten us about how the industry has responded for COVID-19, how China is managing it right now, we would be very happy.
Okay, I will control my time. First, I'm very happy to give all of you the information about the China economy and China steel industry by the impact of COVID-19. So I will give four parts very quickly. First, I think the recovery of China economy, now everything is in the normal condition. Second, the impact of COVID-19 on steel industry. What is steel industry of China during the past year and currently? And the key number 3 is China steel consumption. What's the situation? And number 5, I will give what's the future of China steel industry in the and the high quality development. Also, the first part, as all you know, internationally and locally, China still face very, very challenging. First, internationally, because there are still some trouble globally, not only the economic issues and supply chains, but also some political issues, especially between China and the US. But anyhow, in domestic market, everything is recovering, and because the China government is very strong to control the pandemic issues. Now everything is very safe in China, and under this situation, China government have a very strong policy. That is to accelerate the new development pandemic with the domestic as the key, and also at the same time we should enforce international and domestic market. That's a very important philosophy. And maybe all of you know, we just published the 14 5-year planning, which is the very important headline for China economy to develop in the next 5 years. The key is we should to smoothen the circulation of national economy and build the new paradigm of China economy in the future, especially in the highlight the to increase the consumption. Second, we should to improve the innovation to foster the China economy and to improve the productivity. Number three, very, very important, we will highlight the green economy to promote the new energy innovation. That's very important three areas. Of course, because currently the China economy is still very in good condition. What we do first, we stabilize and expand the consumption. Second, we have to increase our investment. All these two parts have a good marketing for China's steel industries. That's the key issues. So of course, in the future, on the supply side and the demand side, we will to accelerate the green and low carbon development. That's the key for the nation, also key for steel. So the green and low carbon development is very important in the future. So of course, China promoted the dual circulation with the domestic market, the key. I don't waste too much time. So that's the way the whole nation will speed up the innovation, which is the key for every area in China economy in the future. But anyhow, we have to balancing the economic growth and the quality of the development. So that's very important. Before China maybe keep the speed is the key, but in the future, the efficiency, the quality will be the key for China economy. So of course, for last year, China is the only major country to maintain the positive increase of GDP. And for this year, according to IMF forecast, the world economy will be much better than last year, and of which they give the forecast that China GDP will grow about 84%. So that's the key number we should remember. We also compare the 19, 20, 15, and 2019 and 2060, everything good smoothly for China economy. And from the figure, you can see the national industrial value added and consumption rates, and also the fixed asset rates keep very fast during the first 2 months of this year in the year 2021. So that means this year China economy will be much better than last year, maintaining a little high good rates. Why I mention that? This is the good prevent a good market for China's steel industries. So that's the general situation. So this is a figure of the national government report for this year. The China government hope the China GDP growth will over 6%. I mentioned the IMF forecast on China will be 84%. So everything. So I'm very sure in this year China economy will be recovering totally. And what's the steel industry? Of course, in China we still think steel industry very important, very important for China economy. It is supporting rapid development China economy. Second, and we think steel industry is a very intensive industry with technology driven. So during the past 200 years, with the fast development of economy, with the technology, steel industry also developed very fast. And especially during the past few years, the Chinese steel industry take it very serious on the technology driven. So that's why China steel industry can develop very fast. That's the technology driven for China steel industry. So otherwise, we think steel is very important. Not only polluting industries, steel can make the world better. Not only for the construction area, but also for the new infrastructure with the functional steel property. So we think that in the future, the steel will lead the green revolution for the whole future. That's the third part, especially by the low carbon development. So that's the general future of the steel, China steel, and in the future. I mentioned a lot. According to the volume and productivities, China still now is very competitive globally. So I don't wish too much for that, because the market and the supply chain, the people and the technology, and also the basic service essential. So that's very important. So, and what's the future? We think China still will have the ability to lead in the world maybe more than 100 years. That's my proposal for us. And of course, last year China produced about more than 1.065 billion tons. Very important, which is about 57% of the world total. And the key is in the contract area, which consume about 58% of China's steel production. That's very important. I don't read too much. And especially last year, China steel export decreased about 16.5%. At the same time, China steel import increased about 64.4%. The key is last year, the average steel export price is $15.6 per ton, higher than the import on average. So that's why China's steel quality still improve a lot. Of course, the key for the world steel industry is a very high price of iron ore. But generally speaking, with the good market here in China, the profit of China's steel industry is still in good condition. That's one thing. And the third part of the consumption. And the key is I want to mention that with the so huge production volume, more than 98% of the China steel products consumed locally. So China's steel industry is focused on the local market, not to export. That's the key issues. And of course, I won't mention too much. And then according to our research from the long term, China steel export very limited. And last year, our net export only 2%. And even for this year, in the year 2021, in the investment area, especially infrastructure area, the real estate will keep increasing. That's very important for the market here. And in the manufacturing area, especially in machinery, shipbuilding, automobiles, home appliances, still keep increasing during the first 3 months. And in this case, I think in the manufacturing area, China's steel consumption is still in good condition. So in one word, in this year, China's steel consumption still keep increase, and China's steel production will maintain a high level. Even in the next 5 years, we think China's steel consumption, China's steel production still maintain a high level. That's very important for China's steel industry in the next 5 years. So as I mentioned, we just finished the 14th five-year planning, and China steel will maintain high level even in the year 2025. But after 2025, maybe China's steel consumption and China's steel production will be decreasing step by step. That's the market. And of course, with the after the COVID-19, what's the key point of China's steel industry? First, we think we enter a new restructure area of the China steel industry. First, we highlight the acquisition and the merger. We highlight the environmental and the low carbon development. That's very important. That's why we should restructure the high quality period and transforming from the past quantity development to the quality development. That's different. Especially to finish the China's CO2 emission target, steel industry will take the low carbon development. That's very important for steel industry and each individual steel company. That the power group have their program. So in general, we think low carbon concept will promote the high quality development of China's steel industry. That means the carbon development will lead in everything. So we think that there are 3 major trends for the steel industry. First, the digital driven. Second, the technology driven. And the third one is the green and the low carbon cooperation. At the same time, we need a five support. First, the financial, especially the green financial support. Also, we need the tax policy, the carbon market promotion. I understand the European have promotion, and China will also promote the carbon trade market. Or we also have need international cooperation and leading by the standard, high standards. That's the general situation. How for China's industry will have the low carbon development? What's the roadmap? We have did planning. First, we should promote our green layout. First, we should optimize the steel layout. That means reduce the unuseful, inefficient transportation. First, we at the same time we use new we stop or prohibit the new capacity. The government have a strong policy to forbid any new capacity, and also we expand the green logistics. And we should have a new concept with the green production through the life cycle evaluation. Then for the part, also very important. Second, we should have the energy saving and improve energy efficiency. That means we promote advanced and valuable technology to improve the power generation by the supply of heat and energy by steel themselves. Also use the new technology, that means digital and intelligent technology to promote, to improve efficiency. Number three, very important, with the structure of the energy, structure of the raw material. At the same time, we will have a structure of the process. So first, we should optimize the structure of the new raw material and the fuel filter, which means very important. Use more and more pellet and scrap will be more and more usable. At the same time, we will use the new energy and renewable energy. That means steel company will use more wind power and solar power with the new energy. At the same time, maybe China will increase their EAF production. Very, very big step. So in this part, number three, will be key for China to reach their CO2 emission target. Of course, number four, we should highlight the industry supply chain. That means to integrate the regional economic energy and resources to resources utilization of solid waste to building material, building industries, and also promoting the integration production of steel and chemical industries to reduce the CO2 for the other industries. Number five, also very, very important, not only for China and globally, we should work very hard to have some breakthrough for low carbon technology. For example, the hydrogen smelting. For example, China some steel company invest a huge money for the hydrogen smelting. Second, the oxygen blowing BF and smelting without BF. So that's the second. The key maybe in the future is the CCS. That's the five area. But at the same time, we should have a very strong supporting policy to reach the low carbon emission target. First, we should have a national target, and for each individual steel company target. China will establish the carbon marketing for trade and high standards with technology innovation and climate emission and financing. That means need green financial to support the low carbon development for the steel industry. It will be huge investment for that. So according to our research, China's steel industry will reach the peak of CO2 emission by the year 2025. And after that, China's steel industry will work very hard to reduce CO2 emission in the year 2030. Maybe in the year 2030, the steel emission, the steel carbon emission will be reduced by 30%, which is about 420 million tons of the carbon emission. So it's a big challenge. That's just research. So, but of course, the Chinese government will work very hard how to reach the CO2 peak by the 2030, but steel industry should be advanced by the year 2025. So after 2025, China's steel industry should contribute the CO2 emission further decrease. So that's the general idea of our steel high quality development in the future. So thank you very much. I hope my time is okay for all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Lee. It's always been a pleasure to have you with us. And it was like Gone with the Wind, really. You were so impressive in terms of the figures you're sharing with us. And it was very important for us to know how, especially your initiatives to support this sustainable steel, obviously, and also to understand how quickly the China steel industry is recovering. And that was very informative and full of good information. And I'm just, before you leave, I know that you would like to leave a little bit early. So I just would like to give the opportunity to our other panelists. Maybe they would like to raise any question for you. So maybe I could ask our friends from the control, they can just stop sharing the screen. Can you stop sharing the screen, please, so we can see each other? I think it's a lot better so we can see each other. So excellent. Thank you so much once again, Professor Lee. So we are here together with some other the colleagues today in the panel discussion. Yeah, I hope. So I think Dr. Han has got one question. If you would like to ask it directly here in the panel discussion, Dr. Han, that would be great. So please feel free.
Hi, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Lee. How's you?
Everything's good for you.
Yes, except for
I travel a lot. I just back from the Tianjin. I travel every day. I'm sorry. I just travel
for the past year, I haven't done even a single travel. So that's the difference between China and the rest of the world at the moment, I guess. So I think the content of your presentation was impressive, and it's a shame that we could not have enough time to share this full, rich information and ideas. And I'm also very impressed with the Chinese ambition to achieve carbon neutrality earlier than the general target for the steel industry. But at the same time, I am very curious, how can you so quickly achieve the goal? So you have listed at the end many ways this carbon neutrality will be achieved. But for the Chinese steel industry, what would be the key channel, key method for that? That is my question.
Thank you very much for your question. You know, as the central government of China very seriously have a new target, the whole country reach the CO2 peak before 2030 and reach the carbon neutral before the 2060. You know, our top leader very serious, highlighting the target management time, and the central government have a lot of very serious conference, and also formulate a very serious policy, ask all the country working together for to reduce the carbon reduction. So, you know, MPI working very hard for the government. Last year, we working with many specialists, steel industry, also our steel industry, formulating the policy, the planning for steel industry roadmap before how we reach the peak, how we reach the deep reduction. And for the whole country, and the government ask, you know, the some government very seriously, they ask some area, all the province should have their planning. All the industries should have their action planning, and some local government have the condition. They should reach peak early. For example, in Shanghai city, they have their planning to reach the CO2 peak before 2025. That's a lot of well-developed economy area have the condition. And for some industries, like steel industries, the government very seriously ask the industries to prepare detailed planning, how to reach peak, how to reduce the CO2 emissions. So at the leading policy, MPI, we lead a strong team, working more than half a year, with a lot of people. We have still industries for the whole country, for the government, the roadmap to reach the peak. As I mentioned, we got the 5 area. Number 6 is the policy supporting more than 50 individual measures for the whole country. We have to reach peak before 2025. And you can see Baowu Group announced that they reached the peak before 2023, and the Hegang Group reached the announcement reached the CO2 peak before 2022. And the 2 great company announced the company will work very hard to reach the carbon neutrally before 2025. So you can see the country, the industry, different local government, and the big company now began their work planning very, very quickly. So here in China, that's some advantage. The government think is very good condition. If they good direction for the human being, for China, develop all the provinces, all the industries, all the big companies have to follow it. Today, I just have a training program in Tianjin city, nearby Beijing. We organize more than 300 people from steel company to have a training program how to reach each individual steel company before 2025 reach the CO2 emission. How to reduce their CO2 emission step by step. How to prepare their planning. And from last year to now, MPI have helped more than 30 companies, 30 companies have working together for the CO2 emission planning very seriously. Of course, we have a lot of problems. First one is consumption, as I mentioned. Last year, China economy driven by investment. This year maybe the same. That's why this year the steel consumption, steel production still keep high level, maybe increase. So that's why you can see currently steel price very, very high. Nearly all steel companies here in China make a good profit, even 1,000 renminbi per ton profit. So we need good economy. They cannot expand the capacity. They should invest in the environment friendly, in reduce their CO2 cut. So that's we have a good policy, good general policy, regional policies each individual. That's why we think, as I mentioned, the 5 area, and of course, China will have promote the carbon trade system in Shanghai city. This year, the power industries will be online. Now, MPI help the government to propose how to evaluate each company quarters, total quarter, and each ton of the steel, each ton of the CO2 emissions. Generally speaking, for long process, each ton of steel production will be emission more roughly about 2 tons CO2. For the totally scrap raw material EF, roughly about 600. So that's why we will reduce. Yes, that's why we highlight raw material control process and finally maybe use the CUS. So now you can see a lot of steel companies work very hard. But so myself follow the low carbon development more than 20 years. So I'm very confident China steel can reach peak before 2025. And maybe
yeah. Yeah, I do apologize. I just interrupted because I fully, I think, support the idea that this is all about the central planning and a matter of planning, I believe, and I fully understand and support the concept, definitely. So, and I hope Dr. Han got the answer from Professor Lee. So that's very helpful. Thank you so much, Professor Lee. Is there any other question from the other panelists? It's all clear, or would you like to say ask any other further questions? Because it's been obviously quite a challenging year. We all, as an industry, experiencing in a global scale. It's not for only one single country because we are affected one way or another. So that's why your feedback was very very helpful, Professor Lee. Thank you so much for your time. And
thank you very much.
Thank you. You can, stay if you want to, if you have time to listen to the other audience, and then it's entirely up to you. I know your program is a bit tight, so it's entirely up to you, Professor Lee. So now I'll talk in Turkish if you don't mind. So rejideki arkadaşlardan rica edelim. İkinci anket sorusunu getirelim. İkinci anket sorumuz, COVID-19 tespit edilme aşamasında işletmelerimiz tedbirler noktasında hızlı karar verip gereksi aksiyonları alıyorlar mı? Cevaplar evet, hayır, fikrim yok şeklinde. Karşınıza bir ekran çıkacak, grafik çıkacak. Katılımcılar için söylüyorum. Aşağıda bir grafik ikonu çıkıyor olmalı. Rica etsem o grafik ikonuna tıklayıp gerekli olan cevabınızı verebiliyorsunuz diye umuyorum. Okay. Kanal değiştirebiliyorsunuz arkadaşlar ve görebiliyorsunuz diye umuyorum. Grafik butonuna tıklayıp cevabınızı seçin lütfen. So there is a little poll. Obviously we want to understand upon identifying a COVID-19 case, are you happy with the response time on taking adequate measures and the implementations? That was the question from the industry. So I'm curious about the results. So I just would like to give another 15-20 seconds for the audience to come back to us. So let's see what the audience are thinking now. Evet, sayın katılımcılar, görüşlerinizi yansıtabilirseniz eğer grafikten şimdi ben de paylaşacağım. Evet, programımızı devam ettirelim o zaman. Şimdi ben eğer mümkünse Uğur Bey'e ikinci sorumu sormak istiyorum. Tüm arkadaşlarımız adına. Bu soruların belirlenmesinde birlikte ekip olarak bir anlamda çalıştık ve güncel sorulara, güncel noktalara değinebilmek istedik. İkinci sorumuz paydaşlar ve müşterilerimizle alakalıydı aslında. Çünkü sonuçta işletmelerimiz ve sektörümüz çok dinamik. Bu dinamizmin beklentilerini zamanında karşılayabilmek adına da ilave tedbirler alınmış olmasını umuyor tabii ki bütün paydaşlar. Bu konuda bu kritik sürecin yönetimi esnasında iletişim mekanizmasını nasıl yürüttük? Aslında ne tür bir kriz yönetimi prensibiyle hareket edildi? Özellikle zamanında müşteri ve istek ve beklentilerini karşılayabilecek şekilde hazırlık yapabilmek ve hazırlanabilmek, sevkiyatlarımızı zamanında yönetebilmek adına sizler ve kurumunuz adına neler söylemek istersiniz bizlerle?
Şimdi kriz yönetimi malum bizim yaşamımızın bir tarzı aslında. Bu coğrafyada yaşadığınız zaman zaten her güne farklı bir senaryoyla uyanıyorsunuz. Geçenlerde ne kadar doğru olduğunu bilmediğim ama güzel bir şey vardı, istatistik. Türkler her 13 dakikada bir mutlaka telefonunu ve 13 saniye özür dilerim telefonuna bakıyorlarmış. Çünkü 13 saniyede 13 değişik şey oluyor aslında bu ülkede. Şimdi böyle bir coğrafyada her gün yeni bir senaryoya, yeni bir maceraya uyandığınız için zaten alışıyorsunuz. Yaşam tarzınız ona göre şekilleniyor. Fakat enteresan, hani kriz yönetimi tecrübesi açısından Türkiye'deki yöneticiler gerçekten dünya ortalamasının çok çok üzerinde bir tecrübeye sahip olmakla birlikte Şanssızlık tabii her kriz farklı bir şekilde geliyor ve biz her seferinde yeni bir kriz öğreniyoruz. Pandemi de böyle bir süreçti. Ama şunu söyleyeceğim. Nitekim 2020'nin ikinci çeyreğinde kriz Avrupa'yı vurduğunda malumunuz orada tedarik zincirinde bazı kopmalar oldu. Çünkü bir takım imalat sanayi yani otomotiv olsun, beyaz eşya vesaire üretimlerine ara verdiler. Dolayısıyla çelik endüstrisi de aynı reaksiyonu gösterip onlar da ara verdiler. Onlar da bir anlamda vites küçülttüler. Herhalde geçen sene dünya genelinde 50'nin üzerinde yüksek fırın uyutuldu. Şimdi bu süreçte Türkiye her zaman geçmişte yaşadığı o krizlerin birikimiyle soğukkanlılığını korumayı bence becerdi. Bizler de aynı şeyi yaptık. Müşterilerimizin ihtiyaçlarını karşılama noktasında elimizden geleni gerektiği şekilde yerine getirdik. Bu bize daha sonra büyük bir avantaj olarak da açıkçası geri döndü ki yılın sonunda da baktığımızda performansta net bir şekilde ortaya çıkıyor. Malumunuz geçen sene dünya çelik üretimi %1 oranında daralırken Çin bu işi çok kısa sürede kontrol edip ardından normale döndüğünden dolayı %6 civarında büyüdü. Türkiye'de buna yakın bir büyüme sergileyebildi ve bakıldığında işte dünyada 5 tane 6 tane ülke var. Bu büyümeyi gerçekleştirebilen. Sonrasında da bakıyorum ilk çeyrekte Türkiye'deki büyüme artarak gidiyor. Nedir gerekçesi? Çünkü o ikinci çeyrekte yaşadığımız daralma ki üçüncü çeyrekte de devam etti. Dördüncü çeyrekte bir ertelenmiş talep olarak ortaya çıktığında buna cevap verebilecek çok fazla üretici dünya üzerinde yoktu. Ve Türkiye buradan ciddi anlamda avantajlı çıktı ve hala da bunu sürdürüyor. Biz şu son 4-5 aydır alışık olmadığımız marjlarla çalışıyoruz. Çünkü hala arz tarafında dünya genelinde bir dengesizlik var. Talebi henüz daha karşılayabilecek düzeye ulaşmadı. Tabii ki Çin'in büyük etkisi var. Geçen sene Çin'in normale döndükten sonra biraz önce Profesör Bin'in söylediği gibi içe dönmesi, içte tüketmeye başlaması, o miktarları dünya arenasından çekmesi, bir de üstüne ithalata başlaması dengeyi olduğu gibi değiştirdi. Ben her zaman malumunuz çelik sektörünü global anlamda bir otobüse benzetiyorum. %60 yolcusunun Çinli ve de şoförünün Çinli olduğu. O yüzden onlar direksiyonu nereye kırarsa bizler de onu takip ediyoruz. İster istemez. Ama tekrar Türk çelik sektörüne gelecek olursak, birincisi Çin'in zaten olmadığı bir ortamda hani ağırlıklı dünya arenasında aktif rol oynayan oyuncular arasında Türkiye'de 30 yıldır var. Ruslar olsun, Ukrayna, Brezilya, Hindistan gibi oyuncuların arasında ve en istikrarlı olanı bana göre Türkiye. Özellikle de belli ürün kategorilerinde. Öyle olduğu için talep geldiği an zaten ilk çalınan kapılardan bir tanesi ister istemez Türkiye oluyor. Zira gerekçesi hem kalitesini artık belli bir düzeye getirmiş ve kanıtlamış. İkincisi de müşterisine tedarik noktasında aksatmadan yıllardır rüştünü ispat etmiş olmasından dolayı. Ve bundan dolayı mesela Çolakoğlu metalürji olarak biz bütün pandeminin zorluklarına rağmen planlamış olduğumuz birçok şeyi biraz hafif aksamalar da olsa yerine veya getirebildik. Örneğin işte BOD planımız vardı. Onu devreye aldık. Onun sayesinde hani birçok 10 sene oldu bizim saç üretmeye başlayalı. Bence bu sene yaptıklarımızla o en başta ark ocağından saç üretilmez diyenlere aslında çok güzel bir cevap verilmiş oldu. IF çelikleri ürettik. Müşterilerimizle denemelerimizi yaptık. Birlikte çalıştık paydaşlarımızla. Onların onayını aldık. Bugün artık birçok ki Türkiye'de malumunuz son 2 yılda 3 misline yakın bir yatırım yapıldı. Özellikle soğuk galvanizli boyalı tarafındaki imalat sanayinin temel girdisidir. Onların düzenli tedarikçisi olduk. Onunla da yetinmedik, bir ilki başardık diyeceğim ve o yüzden sizin huzurunuzda da tekrar emeği geçen tüm arkadaşlarıma teşekkür etmek istiyorum o konuda. Ve bundan Özgür de bununla ilgili herhalde panelde bir şeyler anlatacak. programın ilerleyen saatlerinde bir karbon çelik için dizayn edilmiş tesiste paslanmaz çelik ürettik. Şimdi aynı arkadaşlarımız gözlerini Hardox kalitelere mesela taktılar. Türkiye'de üretilmeyen, hep ithal edilen. Çünkü bizim amacımız değeri bu ülkede tutabilmek, değeri bu ülkede yaratabilmek ve de malzemeyi bu ülkeye de kendi kendine yetirebilir bir hale getirmektir. Zira ülkede eğer malzeme üretilebiliyor ise onun üzerine çok şey inşa edilebilir. Bir imalat sanayinden bahsedecek olursak önce biz malzemeden başlamak zorundayız. Orada kendi kendimize yeterli olabilmeyi. Bize hep o yeteri kadar üretilmiyor, istediğimiz kaliteler yok söylemini artık biz tamamen sona erdirmek istiyoruz. Hem yeterli miktarda hem istenen kalitede malzemeyi müşterilerimize, paydaşlarımıza sunabilmek için çalışıyoruz. Aynı şekilde geçen sene pandemiye rağmen mevcut 3 milyon ton olan kapasitemizi 4,5 milyon tona çıkartmak için yatırımımıza başladık. Onu da umarım işte 2022 yılının ortası itibariyle devreye almış olacağız. Ki bizle beraber başka aynı şekilde karar alan, yatırıma başlayan arkadaşlarımız, firmalar da var. Türkiye 2023 itibariyle sıcak yassı tarafında bugün var olan kapasitenin 5 milyon ton üzerine çıkacak. Dediğim gibi diğer tarafta zaten soğuk galvanizde yeteri kadar yatırım yapıldı. Bu şu anlama geliyor. Artık 2-3 sene içerisinde hiç dışarıya muhtaç olmadan ihtiyacımız olan kalite ve kantitede miktar Türkiye'de yerli şartlarda üretiliyor olacaktır. Bu çok çok önemli. Bir ülkenin kalkınmasında, bağımsızlığında kendinize yetebilmek zorundasınız. İşte Türk çelik sektörü de hani konuştuğumuz, hiç bugüne kadar alışmadığımız bir ortamda yaşanan zorluklara rağmen yapması gerekeni yaparak bu seneyi, daha doğrusu geçen seneyi geçirdi ve hala da aynı başarıyla devam ediyor ki 2020'nin sonu itibariyle malumunuz Avrupa'nın en büyük çelik üreticisi konumundayız şu an. Ve dünyanın da 7. büyük çelik üreticisiyiz. Şimdi tamamen özel sermayenin dahil olduğu, hiçbir şekilde en ufak 5 kuruşluk bir sübvansiyonun söz konusu olmadığı, teşviğin söz konusu olmadığı bir ülkedeki gelişimden bahsediyoruz. Biz 97'de Avrupa Kömür Çelik Topluluğu Anlaşması imzaladık ve o anlaşmada o maddeye bugüne kadar harfe harfine uyduk. Ama bakıyoruz Avrupalı bizi önce işte devletten teşvik alıyoruz diye suçladı. Sonra vazgeçtiler bundan. Ama Avrupa'daki uygulamalara bakıyorum. Almanya'da da, İtalya'da da, İngiltere'de de her yerde aslında onlar gene kılıfına bir şekilde uyduruyorlar. Sektörlerini teşvik ediyorlar sonuna kadar. Olsun, önemli değil. Biz kendi gücümüzle, kendi sermayemizle bu başarıya ulaştıktan sonra ben bunun kalıcı bir şekilde devam edeceğine de inanıyorum. Ama yeri gelmişken bir başka şeyden de bahsetmek istiyorum müsaade ederseniz.
Tabii,
hani başarının buraya gelmesi mesele değil. Bu tabii ki önemli bir şeydir ama mesele bunu sürdürebilmek. Yani ulaştığınız yerde kalabilmektir. O yüzden de bizim şimdi kafa yormamız gereken en önemli şey geleceği iyi okuyabilmek. Bu panelde ben Barış'ı önce görmüştüm ama şimdi Doktor Han herhalde katılıyor onun yerine. Barış bize Salı günü Dünya Çelik Üreticileri Birliği'nin yönetim kurulunda çok güzel bir prezentasyon yaptı ve geleceğin mega eğilimlerinden bahsetti. Yani biz geleceği çok çok iyi okumalıyız ve ona göre pozisyon almalıyız ki bu başarının sürdürülebilirliği gerçekleşebilsin. Biraz önce Profesör Lee de söyledi. Önümüzdeki sektör için en önemli konu karbon salınımıdır. Türkiye var olan tesisleriyle, onların modern genç tesislerden dolayı şu anda çok ciddi bir avantaja sahip. Ama bu avantajı biz nasıl koruyacağımızı iyi düşünmeliyiz. Bir de geleceğin çağı, artık herkes konuşuyor, kelimeyi çok sık kullanıyor ama bunu iyi tanımlamalı ve bir an önce yerine getirmeliyiz. Konuştuğum şey dijitalleşme. Artık bu sektörde yapay zekanın çok daha fazla yer aldığı, üretim süreçleri dahil olmak üzere bütün operasyonların dijitalleşmesi gerekiyor. Artık önemli olan ekosisteme uygun, müşterinin talebine göre üretilmiş üründür. O geçmişteki çok üretirim, ucuza üretirim mantığı artık geride kaldı. Biz bundan sonra ürünümüzü üretirken sadece kalitemizle değil, bulunduğumuz topluma yarattığımız değerle, verdiğimiz önemle, çevreye karşı duyarlılığımızla bunları değerlendirmek zorundayız. Artık sektör öyle bir yöne evriliyor. İşte Türk çelik sektörü de eğer bu başarısını ileri vadeye taşımak istiyorsa bir an önce bu konularda bir vizyon oluşturması gerekir ve ona göre de adımları atması gerekir. Karbon salınımı malumunuz. Avrupa çelik üreticileri şu anda sürekli Avrupa Komisyonu üzerinde ciddi bir lobi içerisindeler. Bir an önce sınırda karbon vergisinin uygulamaya geçilmesi açısından, ama bir taraftan da 2030'a kadar da muafiyetlerini korumak istiyorlar. Şimdi biz de tabii sektör olarak, yanılmıyorsam panelde Genel Sekreterimiz Sayın Veysel Bey bu konuda bir konuşma yapacaklar, konunun detayına girecekler. Ama biz sektör olarak mutlaka pozisyonumuzu iyi belirlememiz lazım. Ve bu işin de mevzuatının da bir an önce yürürlüğe girmesi gerekiyor ki hazır olalım o günlere. Bizim durumumuz bu malumunuz. Biraz önce soruyla ilgili. Biz hiçbir zaman müşterilerimizle iletişimimizi koparmıyoruz. Çünkü baktığınızda tedarik zincirinin önemli halkalarından biri olarak hem tedarikçinizle hem müşterinizle bu ilişkiyi sürdürmek zorundasınız. Özellikle çelik sektörü olarak. En güzel örneği de Çinliler geçen sene itibariyle çeliği kendi tüketmeye başladıklarından itibaren bizim üreticilerimiz hemen o eski 1997 senelerinde, 2000 senelerinde bıraktıkları kontaklarla iletişime geçip şu anda Uzak Doğu'da, Güneydoğu Asya'da tekrar o şeyin içine girdiler. Yani orada oyunun içine dahil oldular. Ki Türkiye her sene 100 küsur ülkenin ihracat yapan, dediğim gibi de yıllardır kalitesiyle, güvenilirliğiyle artık söz sahibi bir ülke. Teşekkür ederim.
Çok çok teşekkürler Uğur Bey. Söylediklerinize katılmamak mümkün değil. Yani ben kısaca kendi aldığım dersleri şöyle çıkardım. Özellikle bu tür krizlerin doğru yönetilmesinde dijitalleşmenin önemini dile getirdiniz. Tedarik zinciri yönetiminin önemini dile getirdiniz. Özellikle ürün çeşitleme ve iç talebi doğru zamanda karşılayacak hazırlıkların yapılması ve hazırlıklı olunması ile ilgili mesajları dile getirdiniz. Bu konuda tabii Çolakoğlu Metalürji'nin de kendi alanında yaptığı önder her zamanki gibi rolünü üstlenmeye devam ettiğini, özellikle paslanmazla ilgili VOD'nin devreye alınması, Türkiye'deki beklenen talebi yönetebilmek adına gerekli hazırlıkların yapıldığının en büyük göstergesi olarak ben de düşündüm ve algıladım. Artı çevreyle ilgili söylediklerinize katılmamak zaten mümkün değil. Özellikle çevre alanında dijitalleşmeyle sürdürülebilirliğin paralel gideceği bir gelecek bizi bekliyor diye hep ben dinliyorum ve görüyorum. Katıldığımız bütün diğer etkinliklerde ve bir şekilde konuşmacı olduğumuz etkinliklerde hakikaten iki unsuru bir araya getirdiğimizde işletmelerimizin oldukça avantajlı konumlarını sürdüreceklerine inanıyorum. Çin'le ilgili iç pazara yönelmesi ve Uzak Doğu'da özellikle biz de tabii firma olarak da hani CARES olarak da üreticilerimizi doğrudan destekleyen bir yapıdayız. Bu konuda talepleri görüyoruz ve hareketleri görüyoruz. Çok yoğun bir ürün talebinin söz konusu olduğunu biliyoruz. O yüzden verdiğiniz bilgiler çok kıymetli. Çok teşekkürler tekrar Uğur Bey. Şimdi müsaade ederseniz ben Doktor Han'a dönmek istiyorum. Doktor Han'ın söyleyeceği çok ilginç ve çok kıymetli bilgiler olacak. Kendisinin bu konuyla ilgili bize bir sunum paylaşacağı bilgisini almıştım. Eğer Dr. Han, are you with us? Excellent, thank you. So the stage is yours. I think we need to unmute you first, and you can carry on and update us on how we are dealing with COVID-19. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for inviting me to speak here to the organizer. And I will start my video as well now. Okay, so let me. So today I will probably talk about, one moment, I am not able to move the screen. Okay. One moment, please. Okay, do you see my screen well now?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
we can.
okay.
You are in the second slide now.
Right, I wanted to make it into slideshow. Okay, done, great. So I will first talk about some short-term impact, and then it's not my specialty area, but I will also talk a little bit about responses to COVID-19 on the operational side from World Steel side, and then talk a little bit about the long-term issues. So let's first look at the short-term impact on steel demand. When I was first invited, accepted this invitation, I hoped I will be able to share with you our new SRO forecast, which was because our board meeting was a couple of days ago. But unfortunately, the press release will be only this afternoon. So I have to share with you all the information, but I will try to note any possible updates to give a new picture. So this is the global picture based on our SRO in October 2020. In the new release, I don't think the global picture would have changed very much. The big theme or the big story stays the same, but the key difference would be in a lot of countries, almost all countries, we saw improvement of our performance in 2020. As you all know, the post-lockdown recovery globally, especially in the manufacturing sector, was much stronger than expected. So that is also reflected in the steel demand. And as some speakers have mentioned previously, that global steel production fell only by 1%. It's echoed in steel demand. Here in this graph, we predicted for 2020 steel demand to fall by 2.4% in 2020, but it actually ended up not falling at all, just 0.2%. You will see it in a couple of hours in our press release. And the growth projected for 2021 has also improved. So if you fall less and then growth for 2021 gets even higher, that means a much better improvement than 2021 as well. And in our new release, we will have a forecast for 2022, and that shows continued growth. Even it will not be as high as in 2021, but still relatively moderate growth rate continuing into 2022. If we look at the regional scene a little bit, as you can see from this graph, for most regions, the light blue bar, which is the figure for 2020, suggests double-digit declines, and then rather quick rebound in 2021. So I will not go through the figures because those figures will be more or less different from what you will see later. But I must note that there was a big improvement in other Europe, which is mostly Turkey. And also India showed considerable improvement, MENA region as well. And as far as China is concerned, as Mr. Lee noted, we will revise up our forecast for this year and this year. So earlier we expected zero growth for this year after 8%. In the reality, Chinese steel demand grew by 9%, and it will continue to show a small positive growth this year as well. So overall, the global picture is very good, and rebound is expected to be healthy. So key updates is, as I said, we will see further improvement from our earlier forecast. And this improvement is rather global. It will be for both developed and developing economies. But even if the figures have improved, double-digit declines are common in many, many countries. Only exceptions would be China and Turkey. We must say emerging economies got affected much more by the pandemic compared to the developed economies because they had to face stricter confinement and also falling raw material prices, collapse in tourism, and also they had a much less fiscal support from the government compared to the developed economies. So this crisis was a big disaster for emerging economies in a way. And the recovery will be healthy for all sides of the world, but developing economies are expected to rebound strongly. So developing economies as a whole, even excluding China, will achieve the pre-pandemic level this year. For developed economies, this may not happen even next year, so it will take a bit longer. And recovery is expected to be stable, slight moderation. And we may have further upside risk depending on how the pandemic and vaccination progresses, and also how strong the pent-up demand is. But also at the same time, the pandemic will still be a downside risk. This figure is how steel demand in 2022, which is to be listed later, will compare to the pre-pandemic level of 2019. And the best score is Turkey. And this is actually because Turkey had a very strong growth in 2020, but before that, because of the currency crisis, Turkey had a very severe decline in steel demand. So Turkey had a lot of catch up to do. And then most developed economies will not retrieve the 2019 level in 2022, except for France and Germany. But these two countries actually had a decline in steel demand in 2019. And Japan and the United States will have the slowest recovery in steel demand. So key uncertainty will be pandemic, but on top, I think how demand or the recovery could be shaped after this initial pent-up demand is disappeared. So that is one of the concern. And then when the economy normalizes, fiscal and monetary policy could be changing. And then whether the current situation of the economy could support itself without those massive supports. And then we have seen deterioration in international relations in many fronts. So that could be a part of concern. Lastly, I wanted to just drop a note on how this crisis is compared to global financial crisis in terms of different sectors. So if we look at the graph on the left side, let's first look at this automotive and mechanical industry. We see this time the decline was much less. So the orange line is the degree of decline for 2020. And when it comes to construction, it declined slightly more, whereas investment actually declined slightly less. So this is a reflection that this pandemic measures or COVID measures had stopped construction project in many parts of the world. And at the same time, the investments were done mostly on the say operational side for improvement rather than new facilities or new buildings. So that explains the different behavior between construction and investment. GDP ended up declining only by 3.6% in 2020, but it's just compared to the global financial crisis, much deeper decline, but still demand barely fell this time compared to the global crisis. So we did much better in terms of still demand side compared to the global financial crisis. But the exception, if you look at the right side graph, regionally, India and the MENA region suffered much more from this crisis than global financial crisis. Those two regions actually maintained a positive growth in the middle of global financial crisis in 2009, but now they have the deep contraction. So this is the short-term size. And then I will talk about how World Steel tried to respond to the COVID. As you know, all the meetings had to be canceled, and then we decided to do online meetings. And initially, it was difficult, but in the end, we found out there are many, advantages in online meetings. So we had shorter meetings, but more frequent. In the case of the Economics Committee, we had 7 online meetings instead of 4 for the pandemic period. And we updated our SRO 7 times. And since there is no barriers to travel, the meeting participation increased by 30 times. So compared to physical meetings, we were able to have a lot more members participate. And people visited our website or extra much more, like 30% more than before. So they wanted to seek more information from us during the pandemic. What's more important would be how we as an association helped our industry maintaining the work safety and health during the COVID crisis. So we have decided to issue industry-wide guidance note in March, and then we have updated it a couple of times. And at the moment, we continue to update it with extra resources on the extranet. And then we had some webinars to help, for example, the use of production equipment or mental health during the crisis. And the guidance note, the key contents were collected from members' experience and shared with other members. And it was in the area of like communication, workplace hygiene, promoting social distancing, working from home, and all these kind of things. And the critical recommendations were actually, it's what earlier Mr. DALBELER already mentioned, removing vulnerable people from the site or separating, people and minimizing and people at the work site, encouraging homework if possible, and so on and so on. So based on this, at the end of, I think last year or early this year, we have done a survey of members, how they implemented those kind of guidances. And employment-wise, for the steel companies, 66% managed without reducing head count. But on the contractor side, 60% had some decrease in head count. And this is about this work safety protocol. So the first column is they have implemented certain measures and they are likely to be continued after the pandemic. The central column is they have done it, but they will stop it after the pandemic, and the last is not implemented. So what is quite impressive to me here is a lot of measures they have taken during the pandemic will remain. More than half, and sometimes majority, overwhelming majority said that they will continue to use this practice. So if we will look at physical removal of vulnerable workers, 50% said that they will continue to do it, and physical separation of workers, social distancing, yes, 66% will continue, and replacement of physical meetings, 82%. So the online meeting probably will be quite dominant form of meeting for most people, I guess. And then technical requirement for working from home. Even that, about half will say they will continue to maintain this practice. And the hygiene measures reinforcement, they will 90% will say they will continue to keep this protocol. And then establishment of a crisis committee and the inclusion of pandemic clauses. So this will also be part of the life in the future. But the reduced working hours will not stay. So that I think is okay. So now let's look at briefly how we will see the world and how we will, the steel industry will face a different environment beyond the pandemic. So going back to this crisis period of 2020, if you can recall, like by March or April of last year, everybody was in a kind of shock or panic station when everything shut down, and something that was never expected and never happened. So there were supply shock on the one hand, and then demand shock and confidence shock, right? And so supply shock is mostly because of factory shutdowns and supply chain disruptions. And demand shock is that people were not able to move, they couldn't spend. And then confidence shock was, we don't know what's going to happen, when will this virus be with us forever? And by now we know much better what has happened. So the question is, how much of those shocks will have a lasting impact on us, and how will megatrends be affected by the pandemic? So I try to answer this question in a very limited way, because I personally don't have a very clear view of what the future will be like, but I will try to imagine as much as possible. So we had a free COVID megatrends, as you have maybe a lot of you are already aware. In international arena, we had some doubt about globalization, and then shifting global power, great decoupling, and then weakening of global institutions, rising protection. We have been experiencing this in the past decade, or at least half a decade, and so on. And then in the technology side, digitization or automation was the big word of the century. And then we had also some social political shifts. So how did the reaction to the pandemic changed those global megatrends? And as a lot of people say, in the end, it didn't really affect much of the global megatrends per se, but it accelerated a lot of them by, say, matter of a decade. So what you could have achieved in a decade, you have achieved in 3 months. A very, very good example would be working from home. But also there are new aspects that emerged, which is focusing on resilience rather than efficiency because of the supply chain problems. And then people never expected health and safety will be such an important issue. And then in ensuring this resilience and the health and safety of the country, the government role has become very important. So on the one hand, we will see acceleration of megatrend. On the other hand, we have these new aspects. So in terms of behavior changes, this increased the teleactivities. By teleactivities, we mean e-commerce, working from home, telemedicine, teleeducation. So how much will this stay? As we have already sensed, if not 100%, a lot of them will be with us. Therefore, that's one of the lasting impact, I would say. And then shift in people's preferences or values. I think you will sympathize with me that when you look back the days, say 2019 May, when you are thinking about holidays, travels, buying new pair of shoes, clothes. Now you think about working on your garden or improving your houses. So this experience might change people's preference in terms of spending and lifestyle. Also, people's awareness of environmental protection became much heightened. So these, I think, are very important, lasting impact. Also, on the resilience building side, companies will now look into more reshoring, or supply chain diversification, and at the same time, automation in order to avoid having to rely on people. To robotics instead of people. And government will have more role in ensuring national health and safety, and also ensuring national resilience, which means they will focus more on self-sufficiency in certain key areas. One would be this medical area, but also riding this trend, there will be other industries that will be regarded as a strategic, and still could be one of those more strategic industries than before. We actually see this in terms of UK, what's happening in the Liberty Steel, and so on. The government says we will not let it go. And a couple of years ago, the government didn't care too much about continuing to have steel industry or not, in my view. So this is the change in government stance. And consumers might want to save more. That, I think, is a question, but if they have experienced something that they didn't expect, unexpected employment, then they might be inclined to prepare for this kind of thing in the future as well. And then in the domestic and international politics frontier, government role will be strengthened, and they will have to act as a last resort. And then this will also boost or justify some nationalistic policies. Will globalization retreat? A lot of people don't think so. I mean, it could change its direction or its form a bit, but since we are already living in such a globalized world, we cannot do without globalization. But there will be some modification that has to yet emerge. And this will be also partly affected by this new pattern of international relations, which is becoming increasingly polarized and then more combative or tensions. So this is the new world we will be facing. And so how will this affect steel industry? So if we look at a pre-COVID trend of the steel industry in three aspects, the first two are on the production side. So steel companies were asked to work on CO2 mitigation, and also adopting smarter manufacturing was one of the key trends. On the market side, we saw rather slow demand growth since the financial crisis, except for China. And also, emerging economies' growth potential also was a bit weaker after the global financial crisis. So at World Steel, we were looking at 1 to 2% global growth for some decades. So that was one of the characteristics. And then we also saw shifting in regional growth driver. Mainly China was losing its role as a growth driver, and India and ASEAN was the strongest growth driver. And then protectionism. On the steel using sector side, in the auto industry, it was going through big transformation, and also because of that, big recession. And then at the same time, with the development of technology, there is a new concept of urban mobility, which is also related to environmental protection. On the construction side, the smart cities were kind of boosting driver, and energy transformation means investing in, rather than coal powered, but new renewable energy. This was also a big newly emerging pattern. So those factors will have on the steel industry in 3 aspects. The first would be, how will the pandemic affect the long-term economic prospects? Because steel demand growth will be closely related to the economy. And then how will steel using sectors undergo some structural changes, and how our political environment change. So economic growth prospects, there are some uncertainty. There is some uncertainty, which I think a lot of economists are still debating whether it will go this way or that way. So I cannot give you the answer, but I can list the areas of uncertainty. First, pandemic will have impact on productivity because of its impact on lost education and lost health, care during the pandemic, and new work arrangement, working from home, that could affect productivity, and then wider adaptation of IT or ITC could also affect productivity. So there will be some positive and negative factors mixed up, and I think research is going on these aspects. And it's possible that the economic damage from the pandemic, which has not yet emerged, could be larger than expected because of those bankruptcies, damaging the industrial fabric, and then lost employment. And unemployment still remains high, and then this means lost skills and assets. And then with a huge government debt, it has to be resolved sooner or later. So this could either contribute to inflation or larger tax burdens, which could undermine growth. And then important change in social behavior will result in different industries getting different growth impact. And we already know that what industries will suffer. And then with the worsening international relations, free trade environment will be worsened, and with less free trade, this will also undermine growth prospects. And lastly, as we know earlier, China is also going for carbon neutrality, as well as many other countries. So in order to achieve this, we will have to change our ways of life, production. Therefore, how the society takes the issue of climate change will have a profound impact on economic activities. So huge uncertainties going up, some positive, some negative. And then So let's look at finally how it will impact our steel using sectors. So the common theme for all the sectors would be the resilience building activities, and then government industrial policies, also trade policies, and then environmental protection pressure. Let's look at the automobile industry first. We have seen that the transition to EV has been taking place, and it has accelerated a lot. And then automation technology will continue to evolve. And this combined with the sharing economy probably will change the pattern of auto demand. So instead of owning your own car, you can just share it. And instead of driving all the way to your work, you can just drive your car somewhere and then take metro. So also in the many cities, even during the pandemic, even before, but particularly during the pandemic, they have changed the city traffic patterns to have less pollution within the city. So in the short term, we see a boosting demand of, car demand being boosted because people cannot spend the money anywhere else, and they spend the money on cars, and they need the cars to instead of to avoid just public transportations. So auto demand get boosted. But in the long term, maybe the change could reverse as people own less and less cars. So that's the automotive sector. And then in the machinery sector, a lot of green investment initiatives will go on in order to move to low carbon society. So this will boost new investment in some machineries. And then this digitization and automation drive, which will be strengthened, will also have will be boosting the growth in the machinery sector. Lastly, the construction sector, the largest steel using sector of the steel, largest user of steel. Probably the impact will be rather more visible, but we also have a doubt how long this will last, how long this shift away from the urban centers to suburban areas will last. At the moment, people are avoiding city centers for health and reasons, but eventually cities will degenerate into another form, they say. So there will be a reshuffling of the role of a city center versus suburban areas, and supporting infrastructure will be needed. But what is clear is since working from home will remain to some degree, there will be shift in demand for residential versus commercial spaces. And then continuation of e-commerce means there will be more demand for logistics related facilities. So this will affect construction demand. And then green recovery related infrastructure programs will also boost the construction. So I would think there will be a big shift in structure of construction demand. So this was probably all I prepared for today. And as a concluding remark, we did better this time. And as we have seen from our earlier speakers, on our operational side, we also did not bad. So that's very good. But the future-wise, we will see a far-reaching transformation of our society. And there will be challenges. A particularly important challenge I think I would like to emphasize is the changes in the steel using sectors, and also those environmental pressure, which is very dire for our industry. So we will see a lot of pressure, but at the same time, we can have some positive aspects in the sense that steel will always be part of the solution in this transition. And then there will be new investment opportunities to establish a low carbon society. That's all. Thank you.
Wow, Dr. Han, it was very impressive, really. Great to see, first of all, that our sector really performed quite better compared to the previous financial crisis, obviously. But this one was kind of unique because that was the directly pandemic-related financial crisis. That's the reason why everybody, I think all the audience are now sort of locked on the screen and understanding how the world still is kind of gathering all these informations, which is very valuable because you shed quite a lot of tremendous amount of light on very critical topics, I should say, and that was very eye-opener. So it's great to see that the recovery is massively happening, and then it's there. So not too much to worry at the short term, but we will. I think you would perhaps agree with me that we will keep our eyes on definitely what it is going to happen in the medium term, and then also the long term, and how this sort of progress is successfully being maintained. That's the big question mark, I believe. I think you would agree with that.
Sure. Thank you for very good summary.
Thank you, Dr. Han. I mean, kamsahamnida, and thank you so much for having you here today. So I just want to ask our other the panelists, if you kindly stop sharing your screen so we can then have all together before I would just lead to Alexander. So is there any questions or anything that I would like to clarify further with Dr. Han, or just provide more information? Please feel free. Arkadaşlar, eğer sorularınız varsa bunu soru cevap bölümünden yazabilirsiniz diye biliyorum, ya da chat bölümünden iletirseniz ben de doğrudan Dr. Han'a bu soruyu iletebilirim. Ben translation sesini duyuyorum şu anda arka planda. Arka planda interpreter sesini duyuyorum. Evet, dediğim gibi Dr. Han'ı yakalamak kolay değil. Dr. Han'ı yakalamak kolay değil. Dolayısıyla varsa sorularınız lütfen onları dile getirin. Biz de kendilerine sormuş olalım. Dr. Han, I think what I understand, everything was very clear, crystal clear. So all the audience are very happy to listen to you. Thank you so much. And so that's great. So there is no further questions. So I would like to welcome now Alexander, Mr. Streamroot. He's coming to attending this meeting, obviously representing another steel mill, very important, very strategically located steel mill in Middle East, Qatar Steel. So we would be very, I think, interested in listening him. And then I would like Mr. Streamroot, please share your screen. Now here we go. Evet, şu andaki konuşmacımız Alexander Streamroot. Kendisi Qatar Steel'den katılıyor etkinliğimize. Oldukça önemli feedback bekliyoruz kendisinden. Özellikle Qatar Steel'in bu krizi nasıl yönettiğiyle alakalı çok kıymetli geri bildirim alacağımızı umuyorum. Söz sizde Sayın Alexander Streamroot. The stage is yours, Alexander.
Thank you very much to the Steel Symposium, to the team for giving us the opportunity to share with you at the operational level what we have done and what we are still doing, in terms of this pandemic. Obviously, you will see the topics that I will be discussing is in present tense because...
I do apologize, Alexander. Would you mind sharing it as a full screen? I mean, like a slideshow. Maybe that would be easier to follow. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Can you see that better? Right. So my discussion topics will really be dealing with how we are dealing with COVID-19, how we respond to keep our staff and our operations safe, and then lastly, just at a high level, what lessons we have learned so far. So it's very good for me to have listened to all the previous speakers that took it from a macro environmental point of view about what's happening in the world, what's happening within the steel industry, and I will be dealing with you how we have dealt with it at the operational level at a company like Qatar Steel. Obviously, the risk associated with COVID-19, you've heard it, we've had massive economic risks in terms of chances of lockdown of a country or a company. There were many travel and other restrictions, and then definitely business disruptions and business interruptions especially in the beginning parts of COVID-19. Many workplace risks in terms of absenteeism, restricted work hours, impact on people coming to work or working from home. And then definitely something which we cannot leave out is the psychological impact on the mental health of our staff and our families. Lastly, but not least, there are many health risks associated with this pandemic as well, in terms of acute respiratory disease, the chancing of losing life. We have seen the numbers of people that have lost their lives all over the world, and no one single country is immune to this. And then as a result of the illness, staying away from work, it definitely infects other people as well. Now, the timeline of Qatar Steel's fight against COVID-19 from the beginning, we all are aware that it started around about December 2019. The first case in Qatar was identified roughly in February 2020. And we started putting measures in place and started getting worried about this because it's getting closer to home. Our first case at Qatar Steel was reported in April 2020. And at the same time, we had made a very strategic decision to engage our crisis management committee with all our executive management, and we started to put measures in place from the latter part of April 2020 and then into May. And I will share with you some of the measures that we have put in place. And as I said to somebody the other day, you know, we are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic at that point in time. The world have dealt with previous pandemics before, and we need to really capture what it is that we are doing during this pandemic so that we can learn from it and be able to respond a lot quicker throughout the world when a similar pandemic is coming our way or being thrown our way. In 2021, February is when we started with vaccines. And Qatar Petroleum, our mother company, really has also received vaccines for the energy sector, and they have really had a massive drive to vaccinating the people. And at this point in time, it's good for me to say that almost 50% of our people at Qatar Steel have received vaccines at this point in time, and it just gives us some form of assurance. But I will also share a little bit more about that. Now, this is very operational, and we immediately have put together a COVID-19 precaution checklist almost to eliminate infections. And it started with critical actions. You will see the red block on the slide on the top left, where we looked at social distancing of at least 2 meters, no physical contact under any circumstances, the staff to wear masks at all times, wear gloves at all times, especially when you need to share documents or whatever. We have done most of or transformed most of our documentation sharing to soft copies online, but you also sometimes do have physical exchange of papers, and then we've asked people to wear gloves. And then definitely very important, the washing and sanitization of hands immediately after touching documents, or doorknobs or desktops or anything like that. And then we broke it down into hygiene and sanitizing, social distancing, PPE, suspected case and monitoring, what we need to do in terms of communication, and the substitution of material and equipment. On the right-hand side, we also had 2 very important declarations from our staff. First of all, we put together an e-learning course on what COVID-19 is all about, what the hazards are associated with that, and the precautionary measures. And every staff member had to go online, do the course, and then give us an employee declaration that he or she understands everything about COVID-19. Then we also introduced, now many of the people working in high-risk companies will know about a concept of life-saving rules or cardinal rules, which is extremely important rules associated with a hazard that can cause a fatality. And we identified the COVID-19 under this umbrella, and we then had a life-saving rule which we introduced regarding social distancing. And every employee had to read and understand and declare that he or she is familiar with this route. In the state of Qatar, we have implemented an application on your mobile phone, which is called the İÇDAŞ app. And this is really guiding anybody wherever you are going. You need to have a green block on your phone if you want to enter any workplace, if you want to enter any bank, any shopping mall, or whatever. And then there are three other categories: the gray, the yellow, or the red. The gray is when somebody came into close contact with another person or is a suspected case. The yellow is that have been placed under quarantine, and the red is if you have had a positive PCR test or whatever for COVID. So this has really helped us within the state of Qatar to identify and manage the different stages of people who are safe, who are suspected, and who are red. I've shown you just 3 pictures there on the slide as well of temperature testing that we are doing for each and every employee or contractor or visitor coming into the site. So you first have to show your İÇDAŞ app on your phone. Everybody needs to show that app, and then we also do a test, and we then issue every person coming onto our premises with a mask to make sure that the people cannot say to us, sorry, we don't have a mask. Our medical center, we've got a medical center on the premises, and they also did a lot of different precautions where anybody returning from annual leave or sick leave first had to go to the medical center before they could go anywhere else to do a thorough medical examination and get a fitness for work certificate. Every patient who visits the medical facility had to undergo a visual triage for COVID, and the doctors then took charge of that. And then obviously there was a lot of liaison between our communicable disease center as well as our Ministry of Public Health. So these are just some of the operational matters that we have, or precautions that we have introduced. The next slide I want to share with you as well, and this was really beneficial to us. And we all know the statement that you can have the most beautiful action plans, but unless you monitor it to see implementation, you will not achieve success. Now, at Qatar Steel, we have asked our HSE department to do safety behavioral observations specifically relating to COVID and to the COVID-19 precautions that we have implemented. So our guys walked the plant throughout all 3 shifts, and they looked at social distancing, they looked at sanitization, they looked at people wearing masks, keeping the spaces and all of that. And we reported on this on a weekly basis at our weekly management meeting. The right-hand side shows some of the pictures that we show with the people. There's, for instance, a toolbox talk where you can see social distancing being applied, everybody wearing the masks. The offices, we also don't allow more than 50% occupancy in our offices. And where people are coming into close contact, or where people need to meet physically, we have put barriers in front of the person, so you are really secluded from any potential infections. The left-hand side slide that I've shown you there is really what we have experienced in terms of infections. And initially, the first 3 or 4 months really were infections amongst colleagues and amongst contractors on site. And since then, since these mechanisms and precautionary measures have been implemented to the letter, the only infections that we are currently experiencing is where people are being infected outside the workplace by either family members or friends or in a shopping area or that type of thing. So none of them none of our current infections are coming from the work environment. And that is really a good guide for us to see how effectively people are implementing it. But it also made us very, very aware and conscious of the fact that this pandemic, this virus, cannot be seen, it cannot be heard, it cannot be felt. It is out there, and we ask our people to take the message to each and every person they come into contact with outside the workplace, to warn their families, to warn their friends, and to warn the people that they deal with outside Qatar Steel. On the right-hand side, bottom, we are also sharing at regular intervals, at least 2 monthly, what is happening throughout the world, that the people get the picture of the 3 million people that are infected, or the 24 million that are still active, the number of deaths that are there across the world within Qatar, and we monitor trends and we give people feedback relating to all these trends. So we are really doing a lot of monitoring relating to it. Then we have also implemented a color scheme, and this is done in conjunction with our energy sector like Qatar Petroleum, and we have classified the current status of affairs in terms of the pandemic under red, orange, yellow, soft green, or green. Red was the status where we started. We then moved from red when the trend started coming down to orange. Then we moved to yellow, and then we saw a slight, almost like a second wave, even though it was not that critical, but we moved back to orange just to create and keep that sensitivity and awareness amongst our staff. And under these different colors, we have very clear instructions for office workers, operational staff, where we do rotation of people, the special precautions in terms of social distancing, in-person meetings that are not allowed. You can see for the yellow, we then started allowing 5 people, but with a 2-meter radius and or 2-meter separation and so forth. We looked at facility management, we looked at projects, at training. We stopped all physical training and we just did online training, for instance. So as our trends are starting to come down, we will then move to soft green, where we're starting to slacken some of the precautions, and then hopefully not in the too distant future, we will be able to go to green. We are saying hopefully in about 6 months' time or so that we will be able to normalize as far as we can. Just in conclusion, I've made a couple of points where we do realize that this is a disease that had an enormous impact on people's daily lives, whether at work or outside the work environment. It's also very, very clear to us that it escalates the personal stress levels. And we are putting a lot of focus on the mental health side of things as well. Qatar Steel and the global community have devised a variety of risk controls and response measures, but it is important that we implement and we comply to all these precautions. We must not become complacent, because complacency will definitely cause future waves. And this is what we have seen throughout the world. We as employees and leaders need to adopt and maintain a continuous and proactive approach to ensure that further waves are prevented. COVID-19 precautions need to be applied and enforced at home and at work. We are currently in the Ramadan within Qatar and throughout all the other Middle East countries. And we have just re-emphasized the importance to limit any social gathering, because this is one of the easiest places where we can spread the virus is by means of social distance, social gatherings. Our lives, we believe, will never be the same, and we'll have to adopt and accept all these changes. Some are negative and some are positive. We've heard from the previous speakers as well that there are many things that will be different in future. One of the things that also causes this anxiety or the mental stress is that in the past, you went from home to work. You went from work to a social gathering, you went to the cinema, or you went to the church or the mosque, you go to the beach. A lot of these things are now being put into one basket, and you don't have a specific work or specific home situation, and that causes anxiety. And lastly, we have one case experience where no one is guaranteed immunity against the virus, even after receiving the vaccinations. We had one person that has received both vaccines and he turned out positive. Even though the symptoms are not that serious, he still got infected for a second time, even after he had received the vaccines. Ayhan, thank you very much. This is all from my side. Thank you for the opportunity. And I just wanted to share the operational impact and the operational side of this pandemic with our members of the people that tuned into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alexander. That was very, very useful information, and the feedback, obviously, from the operation point of view. And very eye-opening again. And just one question very quickly to yourself, really. That's regarding the challenges. What were the major challenges you have had when you are sort of putting into some of those precautions and measures into operation? Because you're obviously the key matter here is we are talking about is the human behavior. So there are a lot to be done, and I know your professional experience is also mainly focusing on, and some time of your professional life is about the behavioral change for health and safety side of it. So could you please elaborate a little bit? How did you manage to coordinate, especially this behavior management of your staff?
Yes, thank you very much. Very good question. Obviously, I spoke about the anxiety, and I spoke about the stress levels of people. You know, we at Qatar Steel had to sit down and really redesign shifts and redesign the interaction of people. And through regular, we used WhatsApp, we used safety moments on the day of the beginning of every day. We had toolbox talks to really talk to our staff, to convince them and motivate them in terms of implementing these precautions, and to make sure that they understand we cannot go and work together as a team of 5 people or 10 people. We need to now start spreading the load and start working in slots, time slots, you know, that everybody cannot do things physically together. And that was our main challenge. The other thing was about simple thing, about the wearing of the masks. You know, wearing the mask, you are not communicating as clearly as without a mask. So what people used to do is to just move the mask down while he wants to talk. And we said to people, but remember, now you can get infected. You may spread the virus, or you can get it. So there are a lot of behavioral changes that we had to bring about in terms of e-learning, especially your lower level of worker are not always that computer literate and that fond of working with a computer. And now you must do a course you know, on computers. So what we have done there is to try and translate and put it into the mother tongue of all the people, you know, because you don't have a translator necessarily that will stand there. So those are some of the operational challenges that we faced, you know, in terms of this pandemic.
Yeah, very useful, Alexander. Thank you. We know it's the main, obviously, the most critical part here is the employees, and then we just got to make sure that the necessary communication channels set and then obviously working efficiently in between ourselves just to control these kind of, or encapsulate the problem, let me put it in that way, and then make it more easy to manage, and by sort of splitting it into small chops, which is easy, more digesting for ourselves to manage, to control it. So I fully understand the challenges, obviously, because all of our participants now listening to us are also coming from the steel industry, and I'm pretty sure they have listened you and the measures taken by Qatar Steel very carefully, and they were thinking of how to adapt it into their own sort of production facilities. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of quick learning from your speech. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your participation today. And I think we are pretty much approaching to the end. Evet, kıymetli misafirlerim, saygıdeğer konuklarım, sanırım artık kapanışa geldik. Sabırla bir yere ayrılmadan bizimle kaldığınız için çok çok teşekkür ediyorum. Tüm katılımcılarımıza, özellikle panelistlerimize gösterdikleri bu sabır için de tekrar teşekkürler. Çünkü uzun bir panel session'ıydı, oturumuydu. Kaldı ki perspektif çok genişti. İşin ekonomisine değinmeye çalıştık. Çalışanlarımıza değinmeye çalıştık. Covid'den onları nasıl sağlıklı tutmaya çalıştığımıza değinmeye çalıştık. Ve özellikle pandemi henüz bitmedi. Maalesef devam ediyor. Herkesin bir yakınının benzer sıkıntılar içerisinde yaşam mücadelesi verdiğini biliyorum. Ben de dahil buna. Açıkçası şu anda ben de çok zor bir durumdayım. Yani abim bununla savaşıyor şu anda. Herkesin bir yakınının benzer bir süreçten geçtiğini tahmin ediyorum. Sabırlar diliyorum. Umarım bir an önce aydınlığa çıkarız, kavuşuruz daha ferah günlere. Ancak önlemler çok kesin ve net. Herkesin bu çerçevede hareket etmesi çok önemli. Üzerine düşen görevi çok yerine getirmesi çok önemli. Ben çok kıymetli katkıları için Profesör Lee'ye, Doktor Han'a, Sayın Dalbeler'e, Uğur Bey'e, Alexander'a çok çok teşekkür ediyorum. Sizin varoluşunuz, yani bu etkinlikte katılımcı olmanız kesinlikle bugünkü rakamlara ulaşmamıza sebep verdi. Bunu söyleyebilirim. Şu anda yaklaşık 10.500 civarında tıklanma olmuş. Ben amatör ruhla, bu pozitif enerjiyle böyle bir etkinliğe gösterilen ilgi nedeniyle çok mutlu olduğumu söylemek isterim. Bunlarda sizin katkınız çok büyük sayın panelistler. Onu söyleyeyim. Yani sunumlar defalarca izlenecek. Çünkü şu anda YouTube'da aynı zamanda bu etkinlik. Defalarca dinlenecek ve izlenecek. Dediğim gibi çok minnettarım sizlere. Varlığınızla güç kattınız bu etkinliğin başarıya ulaşması için. Çok çok teşekkür ediyorum. One more time, thank you so much for your participation.
Biz teşekkür ederiz. Thank you.
Çok sağ olun. Saat 2.30'a kadar aramız var. 14.30'a kadar. 14.30'da diğer çok önemli bir panelimiz daha olacak. Katılımcılara ekranlarında kalmalarını tavsiye ediyorum. 14.30'daki oturum Sustainability and Circular Economy Introductory Panel panel olacak. Sürdürülebilirlik ve döngüsel ekonomi paneli olacak. Çok yakın arkadaşım ve kıymetli dostum Dave Knight moderatör olarak yönetecek. O nedenle etkinlikte kalmanızı isterim özellikle. Saat 2.30'la Türkiye saatiyle başlayacak etkinlik. Konuşmacılar, endüstriden konuşmacılar var, çok kıymetli. ArcelorMittal'den Annie Heaton, Emirates Steel'den Dr. Muhammed Şahtut, Çolakoğlu'ndan Burak Armutçu ve İÇDAŞ'tan Barış Bora Beyler Dave Knight moderatörlüğünde bir araya gelecekler. Saat 14.30'da Türkiye saatiyle. Bu arada yemek arası ya da öğle arasında yemek yemeyen arkadaşlarımız için standları gezmelerini tavsiye ederim. Oldukça etkili bir interaktif dijital bir stand bölümü var. Zamanı çok iyi geçireceğinize eminim orada saat 14.30'a kadar. Tekrar çok kıymetli katılımlarınız için çok teşekkür ediyorum. Many thanks once again. Thank you so much. Thank you.